everybody, Gabe here.
And Johnny.
It's been a while, but we're making another theory of Zelda. Let's take a look at one of the most mysterious figures in Zelda lore, the First Deity's mask used by Link in Majora's Mask. We'll analyze what we actually know about it and speculate its origins in the process. Shall we?
Okay, I know some of what we'll say has been talked about in some other theories around the internet, but there are a few topics that I never heard anyone mention about First Deity. So here, we'll also try to give a detailed breakdown on the various pieces of information that support our theories.
In Majora's Mask, Link learns the Song of Healing and puts it to use on some occasions to ease the anguishes of troubled spirits, transforming them into masks in the process. I don't know how being sealed in a mask actually eases your mind, but I digress. Those masks usually grant him the power to transform in the shape of the spirit's body, that, even if visually different to us players, is able to effortlessly fool family and friends of the deceased he is impersonating. So it's reasonable to assume that the First Deity was an individual with very similar appearance to what we see Link transform into. Also, in the game, we have the Deku mask, the Goro mask, the Zora mask, and the First Deity's mask. So by the wording of it, it seems that First Deity was how such individual was called, although this name sounds more like a description or title given to him than his actual name.
The transformation mask Link uses didn't transform him into exact copies of their spirits. The magic of the masks altered mostly his physical traits, but also some of Link's attire and equipment in the same way. His shape may vary in mixed ways. The Deku Scrub keeps Link's blonde hair, the Goron gets bigger boots and a different tattoo, and Armani's beaded necklace. The Zora merges his head with the green cap, and all of them get a new set of gloves. The Ocarina gets transformed into a different instrument, and don't tell me it's just a different instrument because Mikhail's guitar is right there in his tomb, and the game makes sure to make that a surprise when you get your Ocarina back and suddenly put out a trombone set out of thin air.
When looking at First Deity's looks, some of its designs we can affirm come from the mask's original being, such as the face paint, which is already present on the mask itself, armor, and general color scheme, as none of those elements were present on Link either as a child or when he was an adult. But just like in other transformation masks, some elements probably come from Link himself, quite possibly the head shape and the tunic. However, some are not so obvious, like the moon and the triangle in his chest. The moon could be representing the current threat he's facing, the freaking moon falling from the sky, and the triangle representing the Triforce of Courage that was once in his possession. So the mask seems to get not only a few physical attributes from Link, but elements based on his experiences or even on his memories as well.
The First Deity's face paint is similar to how many powerful characters or deities are represented in Japanese culture. You probably have seen someone in an anime with some similar looking marks, but it's way more evident when you compare with face paints from kabuki theater shows and kitsune masks. Now, in the Zelda universe, we don't see many face paints like this. We see some tattoos on a few humans, Gorons, even Mikau, but rarely some actual face paint, except among the Sheikah. Almost every time you see a Sheikah of some importance, they have markings on their head, and it's not always their famous eye symbol. Just by itself, it's not really much of an evidence, but let's add this to the classic white hair of the Sheikah and many details from his attire, as the dark blue skin-tight clothes beneath the tunic and the light armor protecting just the torso.
Many people seem to think that both Majora and First Deity are from Termina, and even the counterparts to Link and maybe Ganondorf, but that always seemed a bit off to me. Sure, the Happy Mask salesman could have found Majora's Mask in Termina, but he's the same one from Ocarina of Time. He was robbed by Skull Kid in Lost Woods as well, and followed Link all the way to Clock Town. So you will need much less guesswork to assume he found Majora closer to Hyrule, where he was running his shop until recently. Just thought we should bring it up, but that wouldn't really matter for our theory since we have evidence of Sheikah culture in Termina as well.
The mask description says, "Could this mask's dark power be as bad as Majora? Tremendous power is emanating from within. And a mask containing the dark power of the First Deity. It can only be used in special places." A dark power doesn't necessarily mean evil. The Twilight had dark magic and were not evil. It's how the power is used that is or isn't evil. When talking about the Majora's Mask, the Happy Mask salesman says that according to legend, it was made a long time ago by an ancient tribe to use in hexing rituals, but after fearing its evil power, they decided to seal the mask in shadows to prevent its misuse. If this is to point to some race we have ever heard of, it clearly seems to indicate the shadow tribe of Hyrule, the Sheikah. It is also worth noting that while there are individuals of other races who have some affinity to masks, we have seen masks of Sheikah origin on some occasions.
Now let's take a look at his weapon. Aptly dubbed by fans the Double Helix Sword. Just like the Ocarina is transformed in instruments that once belonged to the Transformation Mask's spirits, so the sword used by Link in this form is probably like the one once used by the first deity. It has a peculiar design, winding along the blade's length, and has the ability to shoot out beams of energy at the cost of its user's magic. This ability is present in most Zelda titles, and usually, although not always, linked to the Master Sword. And except in 2 other games, it was a requirement to have full health to use such ability. Now, taking a look around Sheikah items, I came across this blade here from thousands of years in the future, the Wind Cleaver, the weapon of choice of Iga Blade Masters in Breath of the Wild. And remember that the Iga is split from the Sheikah tribe. Sure, this sword is shaped like a katana, but not only this two-handed sword's blade design looks like the double helixes, it has the very similar ability to cut the wind creating sword beams.
A Sheikah Gossip Stone says, the First Deity Mask, a mask that contains the merits of all masks, seems to be somewhere in this world. And around the release of Majora's Mask 3D, in an interview, Eiji Aonuma replied when asked about who the First Deity was supposed to be, that the best I can give you is just a suggestion. The best way to think about it is that the memories of all the people of Termina are inside of the First Deity's mask. Okay, that could be the end of discussion if we take it literally, since to acquire the mask we have to give up every non-transformative mask in our possession, which could mean that the First Deity is just an amalgamation of almost every other mask in the game. But if taking that literally, then one line in the game doesn't fit so well anymore. When Majora gives Link the mask saying you played the bad guy, points to the First Deity being Majora's enemy. But if the First Deity's mask is made from the memories of all other masks containing the feelings of the people of Termina, it made perfect sense for him to resent Majora and Skullkid's deeds. But the Terminians have never been able to do anything against them and were powerless until Link's arrival. For Majora, it was all just a prank. So yes, those memories and feelings could have passed on to the First Deity's mask, but they would have been added to it. It was an already existing mask with an old rivalry against Majora.
In the Japanese version of the game, you're not invited to play good guys versus bad guys. Instead, you're invited to play tag. While Majora tells Link he's the one supposed to run, they also say Link's the Oni. In Japanese, Oni is the tagger, and Oni in Japanese folklore is also a kind of ogre, demon, or usually evil spirit. But the nomenclature of the mask, while it uses the kanji for Oni, is alongside another symbol, becoming Kishin, and giving it the literal meaning of demon god, more commonly translated as wrathful deity or fierce deity from Buddhism, who are actually, in simple terms, forms of Buddhas that help destroy obstacles on your way to enlightenment, so reinforcing he is not actually evil.
And another point of interest is that when acquired, the line "Could this mask's dark power be as bad as Majora?" was something like, "Is this the only mask the Oni wears?" Which in this context now could either mean that this mask was worn by the tagger or the demon mask used by the real First Deity, opening the possibility that the tribe who made Majora and later feared it thought necessary to create an even more powerful mask to be able to seal Majora. So perhaps they didn't seal their hero on a mask for some unknown reason after dealing with Majora like many theories suggest, but they actually needed a mask to be able to overpower it.
Maybe Majora snatched the First Deity's mask somehow while being sealed, and kept with it all this time. But follow along, you can only use the First Deity's mask on boss rooms. But would you actually consider those fights canon, or just a bonus game mechanic for beating it with all the masks? Since you get it just before the final boss, and then you escape the time loop and beat the game, maybe, in Termina's history, it was only actually used in the fight against Majora. With that, we'd like to leave you thinking about a new possibility. Is the First Deity's mask Link uses the real deal, or just a magical fabrication created by Majora, much like the moon's interior with the timeless medal, the moon children, and the final boss chamber? After all, it didn't exactly have a pocket to store it while being worn by Skullkid or being carried around by the Happy Mask salesman. Maybe the real First Deity's mask is still around, just waiting to be found.
We'll be the first to admit that some evidences are somewhat weak and can be just a simple coincidence in design. But when so many coincidences pile up like that, it starts to look suspiciously intentional.
We are preparing some other theories to expand on the subject. So, if you enjoyed this video, push the like button and subscribe to our channel to get notified when they go live. We would also like to hear what are your theories about the First Deity and Majora's origins, so comment below.
If you haven't seen it yet, you can click here to check our last theory of Zelda about the hero of 10,000 years before the events of Breath of the Wild. And if you're interested, we also have some game reviews around our channel.
See you next video.
Bye!